Yes, want to thank everybody who was a part of this conversation because it we've had these kinds of conversations for years in Village, and this was among the most fruitful. And I'm excited to share back our summary. I'm going to take a little bit of space with this because I want to get it on the recording because this will be helpful for us as we move forward and improve. What I'm sharing is kind of ideas that came out of our conversation to improve the way we as a village are taking up roles. One idea is, of course, just better role training guides. If anybody's seen our guides, you'll notice that they can be improved. So that's some good low hanging fruit. We talked about presenting roles differently. And so the way we present them in the gathering, maybe showing roles visually, kind of like so you can see all the roles that are being filled, and you can kind of more easily understand where you might want to fit in. Maybe even using like statistics and some visual eye candy kind of thing might be help. Um, Talked about maybe after the program having space to say like, hey, this is your chance if you want to take a role, like stay after the program. We can talk a little bit more about it. Might be an easy way to invite people into it. Um, a time we were talking about how maybe we could follow up with members after they've been a member for X number of months or X number of gatherings and say, what roles would you consider taking first? What calls to you? And they can just kind of check a few, and then we've got them and we can follow up. And connected to that, the idea that we should communicate that role taking is a part of what we do as a village. Like, would not pressure new people that much, but at some point, we're hoping everybody can take a role, and that there are a variety of roles, diverse roles that speak to different skill sets and different interests. So everybody ought to be able to find a role that they would be willing to take at least once to help out. Um, we also talked about understanding what skills or qualifications might be associated with roles and having those a little more visible, so we kind of know what kind of skills you might want to have going into it, and then also like what skills are being developed with a role and what you're getting out of it by taking that role, and that if we were clear about those, that would be some other ways you could find what roles feel right for you. Um, Talked about having the village feel like a safe place for skill development. That part of what we're doing with roles is we're letting people who, like be host who, they might not feel like they're the greatest host, but we want them to be host because they're building that skill, and that's okay for village to. It's not about expert demonstration of roles. It's about filling a role and having being held by the group. And so somehow communicating that, conveying that we're all at different places in taking roles, and you don't have to be an expert to take a role. Um, and we talked about pods, maybe having like a way to pacing and podding people so that there's certain roles that you'd be always up for, and we can kind of like reach out and ask you to take one if no one's taken it last minute, kind of be on a rotation, which is kind of something we're doing. Um, And then we talked about maybe we ought to occasionally, rarely, but occasionally in village, dedicate a whole village gathering to roles and discuss it. And then maybe the open space could be all the different roles, and that you choose an open space, whether it's grounding or host or reporter. You choose that open space, and then within the 10, 15 minutes we're together, you can go through a training, and then everyone leaves kind of being trained a little bit. And that because we're all asked to take roles in village at some point, that maybe rarely it's okay to take a village gathering just for that. um, and then maybe also occasional community connection could be, what roles have you taken, what are your stories around roles, like we could throw that in there every once in a while, and it kind of gets people talking about it. So lots in that list. Appreciate that conversation, and I just want to acknowledge that we have come so far, and I think, are excellent at role taking in this village. I would say we're like scale 1 to 10, we're like 9. Uh, People are taking roles, and today proves that point, that no one had signed up prior to this morning, and here all the roles have filled. And there was a time that was not happening. And also just want to acknowledge that some people have been taking a lot of roles in this village. And for people who are comfortable taking roles, it's nice to not have to take a role. It's nice to just attend and not have a role. And so we're moving closer to that. And I think that speaks to why we're talking about this together, is so that some people can step back and just enjoy being here as a member, and other people can step in knowing they don't have to be an expert, and we're just building, working on it together. So I'll end it there. Cool. Thank you so much. Thanks for the share.